We are going to continue this conversation right now and bring in Duke University Professor of Law Darrell Miller. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you reiterate how significant this ruling is, and how does it clear the way for other potential legal challenges to similar restrictions in other states?
Yeah, so I think without a doubt this is a blockbuster decision. It's the first decision in over a decade, really, where the Supreme Court has issued a ruling on a major Second Amendment issue. And it has implications for all kinds of regulations, including the recent bill that's been passed by the Senate, in part because of the way that the court instructs lower courts to think about whether something is in fact a Second Amendment right or not, or a Second Amendment violation or not. And that has to do with what's called the text, history, and tradition only approach to figuring out whether something is a violation of the Second Amendment. That has implications not only for New York's law, but for every law on the books today.
So I want to give people a sense of sort of the lay of the land across the country when it comes to these sort of laws. 43 states allow legal gun owners to carry concealed weapons, and half of those do not require a permit. New York and 5 other states made gun owners prove that they had a special need to protect themselves. And you couldn't say, well, you know, I live in the city of New York and there's a lot of crime. That wasn't good enough. What did they have to prove in order to get one of these exceptions?
Right. So the standard as it was articulated in New York was called proper cause. And you had to show some sort of need that was different from just a generalized need for self-defense. So if you carried a bunch of money, if you were under a credible imminent threat of violence, if you were some sort of official that faced some kind of concern about one's personal safety, those were the proper cause standard. And what the court did in this case on that issue is essentially say, you can have a licensing law, but the metrics for figuring out whether to issue the license have to be more objective. They have to be things like, you know, live fire training. They have to be things like restrictions on where you can carry them. The metrics have to be more objective, less discretion for the licensing authority.
So Justice Stephen Breyer wrote in the dissent for the court's liberals that this ruling damages states' efforts to pass laws limiting who can purchase and carry guns. Conservatives say that states still have many options to do that. If the Senate's new gun legislation passes today, which it most likely will, does this ruling essentially set up states to make their own decisions?
I mean, states still have quite a bit of discretion after the ruling to make sort of gun safety laws. The question is that because the ruling really focuses on this sort of historical analysis, that is, does the present regulation look like is analogous to some kind of historical regulation, because it takes that approach, then it just creates a lot of uncertainty. We'll have a lot of litigation. For example, there is no prohibition on guns in the hands of domestic violence. Persons that commit domestic violence really in the 18th century. And so we can fully expect that somebody will challenge this as unconstitutional. It's insufficiently analogous to a historical regulation to be constitutional. Now, whether it will pass muster at some high level of generality, that's another question. But all I can guarantee you is we're going to see more litigation after this case from the Supreme Court.
So does that mean that, obviously that means that this is not necessarily a done deal? This conversation continues.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, this is, I think, the first of what's going to have to be many, many cases that will be filed, that will be litigated, and eventually will be submitted to the Supreme Court for review.
All right. Professor Darrell Miller, thank you very much. Thank you. The Supreme Court is expected to release new opinions on several cases starting at around 10 a.m. Eastern. We could see rulings on abortion and immigration issues. We're going to have full coverage and analysis right here on CBS News as soon as we hear from the Supreme Court.